now we look at here detailing the opponents Alabama will face in the 2022 regular season in the fall and just breaking down the regular season schedule here for the Crimson Tide. So starting things off here, Alabama will take on Utah State on September 3rd at Bryant-Denny, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. For the first time in the Nick Saban era, or for the third time in the Nick Saban era, Alabama will start off with not having just a marquee opponent. I know 2020, it didn't have a marquee non-conference opponent. However, it started the season off against Missouri. That was an all-conference only schedule. 2020 was just different. But when you look at 2010, Alabama started that regular season off against San Jose State. 2011 started the regular season off against Kent State. So started off against Utah State. And this is a decent non-conference opponent. The Aggies were 11-3 last year. They averaged a little bit over 30 points a game at 32.6. They've got Logan Bonner, their quarterback, coming back. They got Calvin Tyler Jr., their running back, coming back. They got Justin Griff, the receiver, is back. And they got some pieces defensively that can affect the quarterback. So Utah State is going to give you some looks. They're going to give you some looks offensively where Pete Golding and this Alabama defense got to be on your P's and Q's, recognizing who's got what, who's doing this, communicating all of these things out. And then offensively, Alabama, with Bill O'Brien and Eric Wolford, this offensive line, the play calling, got to be on the same page because Utah State's got some guys that will try to come after Bryce Young and create some havoc. So while Utah State, not the greatest season opener in the world, it's not like an Ohio State, a USC, a Oklahoma, a Clemson, a Virginia Tech, a Michigan, a West Virginia, teams in years past, but Utah State will still provide some looks that Alabama's got to be prepared for. So Utah State out the gate here. Number two, very next matchup here, you got Texas. And that will be on Saturday, September 10th. Yes, the dreaded 11 a.m. game. I know, Bama Nation, you didn't want this game at 11 o'clock in the morning in the Texas heat, but Fox Big Noon will have this game at 11 o'clock in the morning in Texas heat. But we all know Steve Sarkisian is trying to get that win over Coach Saban. Texas has Bijan Robinson at running back, trying to be in that Heisman Trophy conversation. You've got Jaleel Billingsley, former Alabama tight end, now at Texas. You've got J.I. Hall, former Alabama wide receiver, now at Texas. You've got also former Alabama coaches now at Texas with Jeff Banks and Kyle Flood and Bo Davis. So, that even the quarterback matchup, you've got Casey Thompson versus Hudson Card, a little quarterback battle there brewing there for the Longhorns. But that'll be interesting. That will be an interesting football game. I mean, Bama's going to want to go down there and take care of Texas early, often put the hammer down. But that should be a fun matchup, especially between Pete Golding and Steve Sarkisian. The offensive mastermind in Sarkisian, the defensive coach in Pete Golding, who wants to show the Bama fans once and for all he is the guy as the defensive coordinator for the Crimson Tide. So that's going to be a fun matchup right there. Moving down to week 3 here, you got Louisiana Monroe, which will be on Saturday, September 17th at Bryant-Denny, 3 p.m. Central Time. I know U.S. Bama fans, Alabama beat Monroe in 2015. People still think about that 2007 season where Bama lost to Monroe, and you go, ever since that 07 game, I want to beat the teeth out of Monroe. Ever since that 07 matchup. And Louisiana Monroe, they've got some players, they've got some guys, but this past season they finished at 4-8. So not a good season in 2021. Still, Nick Saban taking no opponent lightly. He's still going to look to see or be prepared to see the type of looks that La Monroe will give, whether they're going to be a full-on, more so of a running team or more so of a passing team. Defensively, they got a playmaker here or there, so there'll be something intriguing to watch there, but that's Louisiana Monroe. Moving down to the 4th team here on the schedule. Here's Vanderbilt. Here comes Vandy on September the 14th. September the 24th, excuse me. That game will be in Bryant-Denny. And for Vandy, under Coach Clark Lee, this will be interesting. You got Ken Seals back as the quarterback. Now, this past season, he threw for 5 touchdown passes, 8 picks. Not a good number at all there, but Ken Seals, hopefully he'll be much improved there. Alabama does have Tyler Steen, a transfer from Vandy to put on the offensive line. That'd be intriguing. That'd be something to watch there. Can Vandy make this a close, a fun, a competitive game? I don't see them doing it, but can they make this a competition? That'll be what my eyes will be on. Moving on from Vandy, you look at Arkansas. Now, this is where it's going to get interesting here. Arkansas on October 1st, this game will be at DWR Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville. Sam Pittman has changed the culture at Arkansas. They went 9-4 last year. Last year, that game was crazy, 42-35. Bama got the win, but that game was a mini shootout in Bryant-Denny. KJ Jefferson is back. He can throw the football well. He can run it well. You've got 3 to 4 running backs Arkansas will use. Yes, it lost Treylon Burks, the outstanding wide receiver. They've got some playmakers returning. They've recruited some other guys. Defensively, losing Bumper Poole and Hayden Henry, 2 really good linebackers. That stings, but they did get Drew Sanders from the transfer portal from Alabama. So Sam Pittman has changed the culture a little bit of that program. And with that game being in Fayetteville, that will be a very that'll be one to watch. Keep your eyes there on that matchup. Really like what KJ Jefferson can do there. Keep your eyes on that matchup against Arkansas. Moving on here to the next game. Here is the one, October 8th. Bama, A&M, Bad Blood, the revenge game, Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher in Bryant-Denny. I can clearly see this going after the 2014 game that ended up being 59-0 in favor of the Crimson Tide. I can see this flowing just like that. Now, for A&M, they lost quarterback Zach Calzada to they lost Calzada to Auburn. But A&M's got another quarterback that I think they picked up Max Johnson. So what's crazy, A&M lost Calzada to Auburn, and LSU lost Max Johnson to A&M. So A&M's got Max Johnson. They have also got Devon Achane back at running back. They've got Anais Smith at wide receiver. They lost Jalen Watermeyer, a really good tight end. They lost Isaiah Spiller, a really good running back. They lost some pieces defensively, but they got some guys back. It's going to be that game's going to be packed out, okay? That game's going to be packed out, and I'm hoping CBS makes this a night game under the LED lighting feature in Bryant-Denny. There's going to be a lot of build-up for this, but like Bama in this match, just based off of how difficult that loss was a season ago, and with all the talking Jimbo Fisher did, really excited about this matchup right here. But moving on from A&M, the next game, you got Tennessee, and this will be on October 15th. Will this be the third Saturday in October? Believe it will be. And this will be at Rocky Top, Neyland Stadium in Knoxville. Now, Josh Heupel quietly is putting together some talent there in Tennessee. You've got Hendon Hooker, quarterback for the Volunteers. He had some good moments last year in that game against Alabama. So Hendon Hooker is back. They've got some really good running backs back there for the Volunteers, including Tion Johnson. He's back. But you got at the wide receiver position, they lost Velus Jones, but Charles Tillman, their 1,000-yard guy, 1,081 yards receiving to be exact. Tillman is back. And then defensively, Tennessee's got some studs. They've got some ballers. They've got some guys that can make some plays out there. So that matchup on Rocky Top could be a fun one, but that is Tennessee on October the 15th. Moving on down here, you've got Mississippi State, which will be on October the 22nd in Bryant-Denny, the battle for Highway 82 for those Bulldogs who finished at 7-6 a season ago under Mike Leach, trying to get the air raid to work in this conference. Will Rogers is back, a quarterback. He had over 3,000 yards passing a season ago, 36 touchdowns, 9 picks. Mississippi State, they don't run the ball a whole lot, but they do use their running backs as receivers out of the backfield, including one Jaquavius Marks, who is back. Defensively, Mississippi State, they're tough, they're hard-nosed, they fire the ball, they play this weird sort of amoeba stack, 3-3-5 set type of defense where they put a lot on their linebackers to roam around, make tackles. Defensive lines usually stout. They're usually a tough, gritty, hard-nosed group. They're always hard. They're always hard-nosed. So Mississippi State should be a good one there under Mike Leach. And next one here for Alabama, you got LSU in the Bayou on November the 5th. Tiger Stadium, Baton Rouge. Brian Kelly talking about one of his goals, beating Nick Saban. He wants to beat Nick Saban. He's going to have a chance to host Nick Saban in his first matchup as an SEC head coach. Now for LSU, they brought in Jaden Daniels from Arizona State as transfer from the portal to be the quarterback. Miles Brennan is back for a 5th year or 6th year. He's been there quite some time, but Miles Brennan is back. You got Ty Davis Price as a running back, John Emery Jr. as a running back, Keyshawn Boutte at wide receiver, Jack Besh, the other receiver, Jeray Jenkins, another receiver. Defensively, LSU, yes, no more Derek Stingley, but they've got other pieces there on that defensive side of the football. So Alabama, LSU, it's always fun, it's always physical, it's always hard-nosed, it's always a good, competitive football game. This one in the Bayou Tiger Stadium on November 5th. Moving on down here to the next matchup, you got Ole Miss. Normally, this matchup is in September, October, but Lane Kiffin and big boarded himself to a November matchup against Alabama. November 12th, Alabama goes to the Grove Vaught Hemingway Stadium in Oxford to face the Lane Train and Kiffin. No more Matt Corral. So we got to see what the quarterback situation is like. Snoop Connor is back at running back. They normally recruit pretty good at wide receiver, pretty well at wide receiver. They've got some defensive players back, even though Sam Williams is off to the NFL. So we will see what Ole Miss looks like. Normally, with Ole Miss, great offense, defense, and not so much. But if they can have somewhat of a good enough defense, maybe we could see something interesting here in Oxford. But you know what, Lane Kiffin, he's always got tricks up his sleeve. But moving on here, next matchup for Alabama, we got Austin Peay, which will be on November 19th at 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff from Bryant-Denny. Austin Peay, going to be a good warm-up, tune-up game for Auburn. Still, Nick Saban not overlooking anybody whatsoever, because you can still learn some things from playing Austin Peay, but will be a really good tune-up game for the following matchup against those Auburn Tigers, which leads us to those Auburn Tigers. This will be on November 28th or 26th, excuse me. We will see when the time will be announced for that game. This game will be back in Bryant-Denny after a thrilling 4 overtime matchup at Jordan-Hare a season ago. Bama got the 24-22 win. And for Auburn under coach Brian Harsin, a lot of the fans want Harsin gone, Harsin hanging on by the tail seat of his pants. What will he be able to do this season? Now, fortunately for the Tigers, they did get Zach Calzada, the transfer quarterback from Texas A&M out of the portal. They do still have Tank Bigsby at running back. They've got Demetrius Robertson, a wide receiver from Georgia. They still have him on defense. Auburn normally keeps some pretty quality defensive guys, whether these are pass rushers, defensive backs, linebackers hitting gaps, making plays. So for Auburn, it's going to be what will Brian Harsin and the Tigers look like going into the Iron Bowl? Because it could be one of two ways. Auburn could either look like they're on fire going into the Iron Bowl, and everybody's hyped up the Iron Bowl. Here we go, Iron Bowl! Or Brian Harsin could be limping all the way into the Iron Bowl, and they're like, well, there's the Iron Bowl. So we'll see.